Sabrina Osso is the founder and CEO of Osso Safe, a visionary platform built around the core belief that everyone deserves to feel safe where they live, learn, work, and play. A dynamic TEDx speaker, an author, professional dancer, and a licensed real estate agent, Sabrina brings a unique and holistic approach to the urgent topic of safety and respect in the home. Drawing from deeply personal experience and a passionate professional mission, Sabrina has developed innovative solutions to reduce domestic violence through education, policy, and real estate integration. Sabrina's work has been featured across 125 and more radio and podcast interviews. I'm very glad she's letting us add this one to the list today. She's a recipient of the March 24 Her Story Award and is an honoured listee in Marquee Who's Who. Through her children's book, Home Safe Home for You and Me, I'll put a link to that in the notes so you can all click on it and have a look at it. And Osso Safe builds initiatives. She advocates for a future where safety at home is not a privilege, but a standard. With a compelling blend of advocacy, performance, and business insight, Sabrina is changing the way we think about home, safety, and healing. Gosh, there's a lot there. You're kind of busy. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this. It's very early in the morning for you, so thank you for making the effort to get up super early to spend some time with us. If it's okay, I want to take you back a little bit and let's understand what your teenage year was like, what your formative experiences were, and whether you can draw a link between the person you were then and who you are today.
Sure. Thank you, Andrew, for the opportunity to be on your wonderful podcast. I really appreciate it. Um, my childhood was pretty traumatic, very war, like living in a war zone at all times, unfortunately. So I've been in and out of therapy for quite some time to be comfortable enough to say that I am a survivor of violence. My father beat my mother on a regular basis. My mother would beat me. So I know firsthand how, as I said, traumatic that is. And in fact, I only remember a lot of fighting, a lot of screaming, police, uh, very traumatic. So, and that was throughout my whole childhood and into my young adult. And it wasn't until I moved out at 21 years old that I actually started to unsteal what was stolen from me. You know, as victims, as survivors, our lives are stolen really from our true selves. You know, you can't think about what it is that you want to do with your life if you're living in a war zone. There's no way. You're just trying to survive. So, it wasn't until I moved out and I was in therapy from 19 years old. So when I moved out, I was 21, and it's been a process ever since, to say the least. But my business, Osso Safe, came from a one-woman show that I wrote, choreographed, and performed. Um, I am a dancer, but I could not think about dance growing up. I could not say the word. I I should have started dancing when I was 2, 3, 4, 5 years old, when you start dancing typically,
Mm.
but I could not mention it. My life was not mine. I was a slave to my parents. So I had to put that on the back burner. But once I moved out, I was able to be free. I was free. Um, I loved the club scene. I was a heavy duty clubber years ago. I lived close proximity to New York. So I hit all of the clubs at the time. It was great. It was so freeing,
Mm.
so healing. I can't even tell you. The dance floor was mine, all mine, you know, and I really released and I was so free. And as I was saying, I wrote, choreographed, and performed a one-woman show called Home Sweet Home question mark. I play different women being abused. She goes to her good place. That's where the dancing comes in. But then she's pulled back into the terror of violence. And the show ends really strong, really empowering. but I did a lot of research for the show, Andrew, and I could not believe the statistics that I was finding. So I decided to make this into a business, a bona fide business with products and services that could really help people. And that's how Osso Safe was born, out of this one woman show. So basically turning pain into power.
Gosh, I'm not sure how to react to that. It's a very challenging story to hear, and it's but very, very uplifting in what you made from it. So when you were at home, when you were young, was there anybody you could reach out to? Was there places you could go and talk to somebody in safety, or it was just all about what was happening in the home?
Excellent question. I had no one. I had no one. When I say I had no one, I had no one. The neighbors knew, family knew, relatives,
Yeah.
both here and in Italy. I'm Italian.
Mhm.
I was born in New York City, I'm proud to say, but I was raised in New Jersey, and but I've been going back and forth between here and Italy since I was a child, an infant, in fact, and I'm very close with family in Italy, but no one there said anything. I know they knew what was happening, but they never acknowledged it to my face. They never, it would have been so meaningful to me and helpful if
Mm.
one person said to me, Sabrina, I'm so sorry this is happening to you. I'm so sorry this is going on. Your parents are wrong. Anytime you want to come over my house, the door's open any time of the night. This is not your fault. You're not alone. I don't agree with what your parents are doing. Um, Anything
Mm.
of that nature would have helped me so much. Whether I took them up on that offer or not, it wouldn't, just someone validating my pain,
Mhm.
my fear, my anxiety, my panic would have made all the difference. In fact, I had a neighbor that said to me, and he witnessed my I'm not sure who called him because you could hear the screams of my parents down the street. Uh, at times, they were good at hiding it, but abusers don't hide what they do. They could put that mask on for
Mm.
a while, but then that mask is pretty quickly revealed, because it's all about power and control. And look at me, look at the power that I have. So they don't keep it inside. But I had one neighbor, he was in between my mother and my father, and my father reached and pulled my mother's hair hard. He was in between them. After it was over, I can't remember exactly what happened during, I mean, that was like the incident that happened. And after it was over, we were crying. We were so drained. He said to me, my neighbor, and he was a father, a husband. He told me, just ignore him, Sabrina, my father. Like, just ignore him. I'm never going to forget that. And it was one of the most wrong things you could say. And I want to say I was about, I don't know, maybe 12, 13, 8. I don't,
Yeah.
around there. And to say that to a child, how can you say that? How can you, it's like saying it's okay what just happened, just ignore it. It's
Mhm.
gonna go away. Uh, I mean, he just assaulted my mother in front of you, neighbor, and me all the time. I mean, they would do this all the time. It was so disempowering, and I'm never going to forget that. So to answer your question, to reinforce what you're asking, no one came to my rescue. No one. And it's so hurtful. And, it has nothing to do with the times. People say to me, well, back then, this is how things were handled. That's a bunch of nonsense, I have to say, because the same thing is happening now in
Absolutely.
2025, you
Yeah.
know.
Do you do you do you know why your mom didn't leave your dad and take you with her? Do you know why she stayed with him?
Yes, I do. I know the reasons for that 100%. There are many reasons, many reasons, and I don't fault her too much for not leaving, because it's very scary. You're
Yeah.
alone in this country. You don't really speak the language. My father and mother are 14 years apart. So he had a lot of power over her.
Mm-hmm.
Besides the language, being far away from her family, all of her families in Italy, and my father's for that matter. Over here, we had distant relatives, but they were still relatives. Um, Money is a big reason why people don't leave, quote
Yeah.
unquote. Um, and where was she going to go? Where there was no one for me, there was no one for her, except there was a cousin or an aunt that if I can remember, they were in California, and these people were the aunt of my mother who lived in California was the sister of my mother's father.
Mm-hmm.
So, if I'm not mistaken, so she knew what was going on and she told my mother, you need to come here. Come here. I'm pretty sure she said that in letters and also over phone conversations. So there was that person that reached out. She never reached out to me, this aunt. She never talked to me, but and my mother never took her offer, never. And my mother tried to leave. She did leave many times. In fact, I remember one trip to Italy, she had no intention of coming back. None. She packed so many things, suitcases and suitcases, and back then they allowed many suitcases on the plane for one person, one family. Um, she went to divorce lawyers. I went to divorce lawyers on her behalf, but she was scared and she kept
Yeah.
saying, I don't know the language. Where am I going to go? I have no money. And the thing is, though, I mean, she's abusive as well. So I don't want to excuse her too much, but
Yeah.
and we could go over this later on in the interview, but
Mm.
we at Osso Safe, we take the firm position that once you enter a real estate contract with someone where you cohabit, where you rent, whether you own, whether you have a mortgage or not, why should you leave? You're the victim. Why should you leave? You stay right where you are. And in fact, it's the title of my TEDx talk. If you're a victim of home violence, don't leave, stay. And the whole premise of that is you're being assaulted verbally, physically, sexually, definitely emotionally, mentally. Uh, you have children. You're you have all of your stuff in the house or in the apartment. Why should you leave? You're getting attacked. It's the abuser that has to leave and not come back. Why should you uproot yourself? You just got beat up, you're bleeding, you have a black eye, your children are screaming. you stay right where you are. It's the abuser that has to go. So that's the position that we take at
Mm.
Osso Safe. So, and in our seminars and workshops, there are 50 reasons, 50, why people don't leave. And the first one is money. Money. If your abuser is the breadwinner, it makes it very difficult to leave. And then the last reason, number 50, is because the abuser found me again. You leave, but the abuser's going to find you, So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I think I answered the question.
You beautifully. And I did want to dig into that. So when I sort of read about you and did some research and listened to your talks and different things, you are unique certainly from my knowledge that you've integrated dance, real estate, and advocacy into what you do. And it's not necessarily the first combination people will think of, right? So I know dance, advocacy, real estate. We'll add them all together. I wondered how did you come across real estate? How does that come together with what you do at Osso Safe? Why did you feel it was relevant to fuse those things together?
Yes, excellent question. Uh, I am a dancer.
Mm-hmm.
I am a dancer. If I lived in a different family, a safe family, a respectful family, I would be dancing just 24 hours, 7 days a week. I would be dancing, and I am a dancer. I still dance. I incorporate dance in what I do because especially when you're talking about such a taboo subject as home violence, and
Yeah.
that encompasses verbal, physical, sexual abuse, children of all ages, they can digest the material much better when you when you bring in the performing arts in any capacity,
Yes.
especially dance. And so so the dancing is a big tool that I have under my belt, if you will. And I can also have other students dance with me, so it's very inviting and empowering, so on and so forth. The real estate is even also a big component, huge
Mm-hmm.
component in what we do at Also Safe, because and I thought long and hard about my business, how I wanted it to be, the business model, how I wanted to help people, including myself.
Mm.
Like, what is it that I needed? What is it that would have really helped me? What would have really made a difference? What would have made an impact? And I had uh, several business coaches, and one of them asked me very pertinent questions, and and uh, and he really like dug into my brain, and he said, who is it that you want to help? How do you want to help them? What is it that really uh what is it that you want to do with your company? Because I wasn't oh so safe yet. I
Yep.
didn't have that name yet. So uh and that's how I came up with the name, with him really digging with the questions. The real estate, um, if you think about it, every single crime that happens related to home violence happens in some type of residence.
Yeah.
Whether you live in a townhouse, a co-op, a condo, a
Mm-hmm.
single family home, a multifamily dwelling, a two-family home, a villa, a mansion, a mobile home, a senior community, a dormitory, it doesn't matter. It happens in some type of residence. So I said to myself at Also Safe, in building my business, the key is in making respect a required standard in all homes, in whatever type of home. So if we make respect the required standard, you're not going to be allowed to get away with half the things you get away with, because then you're fusing education technology, mental health, real estate, all together, security also all together. And real estate, I use my real estate contacts as an agent because I meet landlords, property owners, property managers, tenants, buyers and sellers every day as a real estate agent. So I am bridging Osso Safe with the real estate industry to make, let's put it on paper. Let's hold people to the fire, if you will, getting them to commit to a safe environment beyond the heat, hot water, electricity, central air. You have everything up to code, the window guards in case you have children. That's fantastic. But all of that doesn't matter if you are living with a terrorist. If when you put that key in your lock, you should feel like it's home and not hell. You should feel like it's your sanctuary and not your a war zone. Like I lived, like so many of us live, too many of us live that way. And it's not living, you're surviving, you're trying to survive. So, so I said to myself, um, uh, I I I always check in with lawyers on everything that what I'm doing. Everything is copywritten, trademarked. So we developed the Osso Safe certification for properties, and we could go into that later on in the interview or now. But this certification, it holds landlords, property owners, property managers, even if you own your own property as a single unit home. Um, let's get your property Osso Safe certified, where we make respect the required standard, everyone gets educated, um, there's technology involved, and that way, if and when violence occurs, abuse occurs, well, we're going to de-victimize the victims, and you, the abuser, is out of the property. So that's like a preliminary description of what we do at Osso Safe, and really concentrating on the real estate industry. And mind you, I want to say that I have to say this is a paid service. We're not a charity. We're not a nonprofit, because the charities are nonprofit out there, but 1 out of 3 women will be beaten or raped in her lifetime. 1 out of 5 adolescent girls is abused by her boyfriend. 1 out of 3 young people will be in an abusive relationship. 1 out of 7 men is abused. 15 million children witness violence in their own homes each and every year. That's just in the US, just the ones that we know about. 5 children a day are murdered in the United States, usually at the hands of an abusive parent, usually under the watch of a child protective service agency, and usually under the horrible, horrible rulings of a judge.
Yeah.
About 324,000 pregnant women go into the emergency room, not for pregnant related issues, but for abuse related injuries. 80% of all runaways come from violent homes. I could go on and on with statistics. My point is, all of those statistics, the charities and the nonprofits are out there. Well, they're failing. They're failing
Yeah.
because all of those statistics are current.
Yeah.
So, and we make it a paid service because when you pay for something,
It
it'll
has
get
value.
resolved.
Well, this is if something has a cost associated to it, it also has a value. If something comes free, the values just don't directly diminish, really. So actually, it's funny to talk about real estate. My background's in commercial real estate. So I worked at CBRE and Cushman & Wakefield, a big sort of real estate agents globally. And the last few years I was there, we spent a lot of time working with landlords of residential properties and working with owners of buy-to-rent properties to get them to sort of certify their buildings as being sustainable with Energy Star or GREBS, all these different things, whatever. And it feels like there's a real opportunity to have buildings certified as Osso Safe, to have them certified in that way. So have you, what sort of feedback or connections have you had with the real estate industry in general?
Yes. We have our certifications in a couple of single households, like single family households, and it's been working out well, like beta testing, if you
Yeah.
will, and uh, and people are feeling, wow, this is very positive. I've never seen something like this before, and I feel like my kids are even safer because this affects, neighborhoods,
Yeah, absolutely.
societies, communities. So it's been positive. We get some pushback still, obviously, and this is also safe building momentum,
Mm-hmm.
where property managers, we still get, no, no, everything is fine here. We don't need your certification, like pretending that everything is okay. But we want to say to them, and we have been saying to them, you're involved, whether you like it or not. By default, you're involved. Once someone signs the lease, your leases, your mortgages, the real estate contract, you're involved. So what happens behind closed doors,
Mm.
at the end of the day, it is your responsibility to make sure that everyone is safe. Otherwise, you'll have complaining neighboring tenants saying, look, you got to do something. I hear them screaming and yelling. If you don't do something, I'm going to move out. This is not what we signed up for. The other day, I saw him or her lay his hands on
Yeah.
his partner or her partner. The kids were screaming. It was very uncomfortable in the elevator. Uh, or ultimately, a murder happens right in your property, in your 10 unit, 5 unit, 50 unit, 200 unit. And
Mm.
then bad news travels fast. And when you can nip it in the bud and get your property also safe certified, because with our certifications, it's preventative versus waiting for an episode of violence to occur. Bad news travels fast, police come, and why when you can flip all of that? So I would say, to answer your question, it's a mix,
Mm.
but I
Mm-hmm.
do believe that the more that we get our name out there, the more that
Yeah.
people know that we exist, our products and services, I
Mm.
think this will really take off.
Mm-hmm.
The more we build momentum.
Definitely, like you say, it is a positive check mark about where you're going to live and who your neighbors are going to be and what sort of society it's going to create, really. Because I do think so many amazing things start at home, and very sadly, so many terrible things happen at home. It's meant to be this place of safety and respite and a place where you can go when everything else might feel terrible. But like you say, for many people, it's not. But having something that sort of certifies the building you're going to be in as being a safe space, it does come with a huge amount of value. So I would have thought it's something definitely worth speaking to the big real estate players about and trying to get it almost in one of their sort of standard part of one of their contracts, really. It feels at such a benefit, really. Yeah. One of the things that I wanted to touch on, and this is it's a very sensitive topic for a lot of people, I think. And I think one of the big changes we've seen in the last 15 or 20 years, I guess, is the easy access to pornography. So when I was younger, it was maybe a picture of a lady with no clothes on, torn from a magazine, and that was as stimulating as it got, really. But you and I both know that there's so many variants of pornography that anybody can pretty much access. And I think the average age that boys access hardcore pornography now is 12 or 13, which is far too young, if access ever. But because they don't know what a relationship is at that stage. And I just wonder what your thoughts were on the role of pornography in society today, whether it has a impact of an influence on domestic violence. But like I say, domestic violence has been going on for decades and decades, hundreds of years. So it existed before we had the internet and everything else. But I just wondered what your thoughts were on the role that pornography might play in society.
Yes, yes, excellent question. And I'm so glad that you asked it because I feel like I could shed some light or some, uh, um, yes, insight, if you will. Pornography is a big driver of violence, huge. And both male and female, I would say, both male and female. And I believe the statistic is 88%, something about 88% of pornography is geared towards violence against women. However, I am here to say that women can be and can be perpetrators of the violence that goes on in pornography. And a lot of people don't know this. So I have been making it a point on every podcast, every speaking engagement to educate the public, your audience, on this. And people say, well, that's why social media is so dangerous. The thing is, we like to say at Osso Safe, you have to social media responsibly. Kind of like, drinking and driving,
Yeah.
you have to make sure that you have, if you're going to drink, bring someone with you that's not going to drink, call a taxi, have a designated driver. You have to drink responsibly. Well, we say at Osso Safe, you have to social media responsibly. So do not look at things that are disturbing, that are violent, that are, you're watching people fighting or a rape or what kind of social media is that? There's so much good on social media. People are educating one another.
Mm-hmm.
Great content they put out. Um, their Goes and Love, the Tired Dad. These are all Instagram handles, and they're teaching about positive parenting. Really, really, so they give good tips. I mean, it's fantastic, and we wouldn't have this awareness if it wasn't for social media.
Yeah.
But pornography was bad before social media, let alone now, because with the internet and social media, there's so much easy access to pornography. And we're not talking about erotica. Erotica is something else. Erotica is about sexual freedom, but pornography is about domination, manipulation, control, sexual domination, manipulation, and control. And it is actually, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the statistic is that boys and girls as young as 9 years old are being exposed to pornography because of the internet, social
Yeah.
media, so on and so forth. Um, and it is very, like you said, I like that you said that it's far too young. Quite frankly, it shouldn't exist for adults because it's all about unhealthy sexual relationships. I mean, in pornography, you are choking someone, you're beating them, you are raping them, some sort of sexual assault. No one should be involved in that. No one should take pleasure in that. No one should be aroused by that, where I am hurting you in order to get arousal. That right there is very disturbing. So, and that is what pornography teaches, what it is, um, yeah, what it is, um, both explicitly and implicitly, if you will, in its content. And pornography is side by side with trafficking, sex trafficking, by far. So, in order to make the pornography, well, you have to traffic. You're trafficking to make the content. And, well, what do people like, men and women. Well, I like this type of girl and I like that type. I like Asians and I like, as if we're on a platter and you pick as like a menu, it's very disturbing, and I like for the little girl to do this to me and I like for the little boy to do, I mean, just
Hmm.
what are we? Are we human or are we barbaric? And I want to say that there is a branch of pornography, BDSM, that stands for bondage, domination, sadism, and masochism. Just that acronym alone, if you think about that, who needs to be involved in that? Bondage, domination, sadism, and masochism. That is screaming unhealthy and dangerous and disturbing on the whole spectrum of pornography. And I want to say that BDSMers are primarily women doing the abusing, and they do convulsing, revolting, disturbing things on and off camera. And they fly under the radar, these women, because a lot of people don't suspect women being the perpetrators, but I am here to tell you they are sex abusers. They are the sex abusers of our towns, societies, communities, neighborhoods, because they, like I said, they fly under the radar. No one suspects a woman being a perpetrator, but these women are dangerous. They will stop at nothing to get what they want, and the courts here in the United States find nothing wrong with BDSMers, where they do these revolting, disturbing videos on and off camera. And it's not like it's a switch that they shut off. Okay, I'm a good mother now. I'm a good person now. They prey on submissive men, and these men could have children, and they rope them in, enter into a relationship, whether they're going out or they're married, they cohabit. And Andrew, it is a recipe for disaster. The children are slaves in that home. They are being groomed to be a future BDSMer. And the courts need to see this as a felony, as a bona fide crime. And these people need to be in jail, quite frankly, BDSMers. And they are trafficking. They are trafficking locally within their own, the children that they enter a relationship with the person, the partner, and if they have children, the children are being trafficked, they're being groomed, and any children that they give birth to, well, they are automatic victims. And in fact, I made this into a post because I saw it on another post that most adults in the sex industry first enter it as children, which means it is forced upon them. They are being threatened into this profession, the sex industry, to be prostituted, to be groomed, to be trafficked, to be objects to the men and women that are clients that come in, and they're raping them and sexually assaulting them. So this whole notion of the sex industry, and we have to fight for sex workers and people that do pornography and BDSM, it is ludicrous. I am here to say that is incorrect. We at Osso Safe, we are saying that you need to really think about what it is that you're saying, because pornography, BDSM, sex trafficking, they are all adjacent. It's all um, the BDSMers, the courts will say, well, we keep this away from the kids. That is a bunch of nonsense. That is a blatant lie. You may not have them in your videos yet, but you are grooming them by playing these games of, oh, let's play a game where I'm your master and you're a dog and you have to do what I say. little Timmy, little Sally, and the poor child is, you know, they're the mom and dad that's doing pornography, BDSM, the step parent, whoever it is, they gain trust with that person. Meanwhile, they're being groomed right in front of their faces, and before you know it, they're in that profession, if you will.
Mm.
So I'm very glad that you asked that question because it's both men and women that are perpetrators, and it is uh, a $100 billion industry.
Yeah, this is it now.
Pornography,
It's a
sex
huge.
trafficking.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this is it. Once you get an industry that gets to the scale of money that the industry does, it's very, very hard to challenge it. And it's yeah, but it's something we need to keep talking about for sure. The more it's talked about, the more people understand what's going on. I did want to ask, when you left home, or maybe even before that, I had to ask, but what how do you think what you experienced as a youngster influenced the personal or intimate relationships you have with partners? Because you often hear about people from an abusive home end up in an abusive relationship, or people from an abusive home are very closed off to any form of intimacy. So how was your experience of a loving, caring, intimate relationship once you escape from the home environment?
Yes. Well, luckily, I had therapy, as I stated, from
It's from 19.
19 years of age. So she helped me see the warning signs,
Mm-hmm.
and also I made it a point to I knew what the warning signs were right away. And she would alert me, Sabrina, you don't want to act like your parents. What you're doing, what you're saying to me right now, it sounds like your mom and dad. So I would kind of nip it in the bud right away. I would stop the bleeding right away. Um, and she would kind of alert me and like guide me on, you can't be involved with this person. This is not a healthy relationship.
Yeah.
And then I would push away good guys, actually. Like even that was when you're used to bad, it's hard to get used to good,
Yeah.
in a statement. Like it's almost as if, like, no, I don't deserve to be in a good relationship. I don't know what to do with this. He's sending me flowers. He's so good to me. He's very supportive. He's very kind. It's almost like you have to relearn that that's normal.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
should be normal versus any verbal, physical, sexual abuse or trauma or mental abuse, emotional, mind games. So I was dealing with kind of both on both sides of the spectrum, if you will. And my therapist helped me, guided me through that, when it was, Sabrina, you want to invite the good, not push it away. you know um if he's treating you well, you deserve that. Because as a
Yeah.
child growing up with abuse, you get convinced almost through osmosis, you deserve to be beaten. You deserve what I do to you. You're the cause of it. You made me hit you. You made me. And then you go into relationships that becomes the norm. So you have to nip it in the bud right away, and do the reverse. So that's what I did to the best of my ability with the help of my therapist.
And it's a terrible word to use, but that's almost the skill of the abuser, the manipulation, to think that it's your fault that I had to hit you, it's your fault that this is happening. And I'm sure a lot of people do live with shame and yeah, carry this in silence, really. And it's Yeah, it must become very difficult to trust somebody else. How are you with trust now? Are you able to completely trust another individual?
No, no, not completely. I would say though I'm much better. Um, I'm much better, but I would say um I've been with my partner for a very long for quite some time, and I trust almost completely. It's more of a I just have to always guard myself. There's that 2%, 5%, 3% that you just kind of like a protective thing for, but he is the number one person that I trust on the planet. Uh, and even my therapist said that's a miracle in and of itself,
Yeah,
considering because she knows from what I came from, that I didn't repeat the cycle. But it is always a work in progress, um, uh, and like friendships are hard to trust for me because I was severely bullied in school, severely. So I was bullied at home, bullied at school, and I've had so many people betray me that friendships are very difficult to maintain for me. Like I have just a very few friends, but yeah, it's something that I kind of accepted in a way, because it's just yeah, it's just difficult, when you get burned so many times. Not that you're not open to it, but you always have that shield,
yeah.
you know, you know. But my partner, he's the one person I trust 100, like I would say, 99%. He's he's been with me through thick and thin, and I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful.
He sounds like a very special person, as do you. So I'm glad that you found him, and I'm very glad that he found you. But how long was it after you started, I don't know, dating or getting to know each other before you told him the story?
About my childhood,
Yeah,
um, I don't think I ever I never sat down with him and told him, like, it wasn't like one conversation.
yeah.
It was many mini conversations, if you will. Um, yeah, like in this is what happened at this time, and this is why I need space because of this. So it wasn't, I don't think
Yeah.
it was a sit down conversation ever, like um many ones, I would say. Um, yeah.
That you were, I think that's the right word. You were generous enough to write a wonderful book, a children's book, but I think it definitely speaks to both children and adults, called Home Safe Home for You and Me. And I wonder what the experience of writing that was like, particularly about very difficult topics and wanting to get the message across to children without without terrifying them and making them think that everybody's a sort of predator. How was the experience? What did you feel at the end of it? Is there another book to follow that? Yeah, what was the whole experience like?
Yes. I'm so glad you asked that. I've always had the idea to write a children's book, but I heard a lot of scams that people would be scammed of with publishers, and but then a podcast host, actually, her name is Mitzi Ocasio of um Let's Think About It, I think is the title of her podcast. Anyway, she had advised me, because she wrote a children's book, and she said, Sabrina, I'm going to refer you to my publisher. He was fantastic. He won't steer you wrong. And she was 100% correct. His name is Steve Young of Yes Bear Publishing, and he helped me the whole way, through every step of the way. And it was very healing, very uh like he knew the illustrator, like he had a whole string of illustrators to choose from, and I knew I wanted to make it as simple as possible, but at the same time have a lot of meat to the book. And the premise of the book is to empower children. Children are at the core of what we do at Osso Safe, to empower them.
Yeah.
And what's great about our certifications, the Osso Safe certification, is that we educate both adults and children alike on facts, statistics, warning signs, definitions of abuse, the difference between abuse and discipline, what constitutes a good relationship, what are the warning signs of a bad
Mhm.
relationship. and and the book is a staple in every Osso Safe property. So I go over in the book that just to plant seeds in children's minds, know that for the moment, which means right now, you are safe. So to kind of say to them, don't think about the past. Don't think about the future. Right now, at this moment, you're safe. And I also encourage them to breathe, like do really deep breathing, something that I wish I had growing up. Like when the fighting stops, go to a safe space in your house, in your apartment, be alone and just breathe. Breathe deep and hold it at the top. And I do a five, like a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then let it all out, just to really ground them to the present moment. And also, we're giving them voice and choice to children. And I say, you know who makes you feel safe and free and respected and good. You kids know. And another big component, an important component of the book is think about who you feel safe with, kids. Think about it. Who respects you
Mm.
and who do you respect? Is it mom, dad, stepmom, stepdad? But what if it's not mom, dad, stepmom, stepdad? Because a lot of the time, your very mom, dad, stepmom, stepdad are your abusers. So is there someone that is willing, that you feel safe with, an aunt, an uncle, a grandparent, a close family friend? Think about it, kids. Think about who you feel safe with. And we're teaching them a cheer. It's the Oh So Safe Kids cheer. And it goes like this: I want to live where I am oh so safe, and I am oh so safe with, and they get to fill in the blank. Is it mom, dad, stepmom, stepdad? Maybe it isn't. Maybe it's an aunt, an uncle, a grandparent, a close family friend. So we are teaching them this in the children's book to empower them, because we know for a fact that abusers can only keep their poker face on for so long. Sooner than later, those abusive true colors will come out. So we will get that child to that person whoever they feel safe with, an aunt, an uncle, a grandparent, a close family friend. Why wait until they are 18 years of age? It's too
Mm.
late. And this is what we are teaching in the book, to give them voice and choice. So it was very healing, very freeing for me, and we're very proud of the book, because I don't think there's a book like it, really, to my knowledge anyway.
No, I found it incredibly empowering. I think more than anything else is the right word to use. And you
Thank
said
you.
something which before, which almost it almost beggars belief it needs to be said, really, but you said that safety is a human right and not a luxury, which sounds so obvious, but when you think back to it, and there's been, and I'm sure both could quote so many cases, but there's been cases over here where we've had particularly young children that have been in school and gone to school, and something eventually has happened to the poor child. They've either been killed or seriously injured or whatever at home, and then the school's interviewed afterwards and said, well, yeah, she used to come to school and her clothes were never washed, and she used to take food from the bins or recycling. She always seems so hungry, but we never thought anything was happening and didn't do anything. And I just wonder what it. Teachers do wonderful things, and I've got friends that are teachers and they do amazing things, and they have to deal with so many situations, etc. But I just wonder what more could schools do to help, because often, apart from if you're bullied, that's probably your one place of respite. You're there for quite a number of hours each day. When you're young, you tend to be with the same teacher for hours now, so they must notice something at some point. I just wondered, are teachers scared to call something out in case they're wrong and are worried about, I don't know, legal consequences, or yeah, I just wonder, maybe without berating teachers at all, is there more that schools could do to, well, first of all, share your book and talk about this as a topic so that children are aware that they're in an abusive household when they're 5, 6, 7, because they might not even be aware of it. They might think it's normal. But yeah, sorry, that's a very long, I'm not sure what the question is really. But is there more that schools could do that could be helped with?
Absolutely. We feel it Osso Safe, yes. And the schools here, I feel like they just play it too safe here. And I am a substitute teacher. I taught for 15 years plus. 10 of those were for dance and 5 for substitute teaching, pre-K through high school, throughout high school. And I have to say, and there are good teachers, there are, but I feel like so many of them are too passive, too complacent, too silent. And I feel like I want to say, I know this is going to sound strange, but don't bother calling Child Protective Services. Don't bother. You're better off not because I could say from personal and professional experience, they do more harm than good. They make horrible matters even worse. Don't bother calling them. And I know that they're required to do so. They're required to do so by law, school laws, um, child laws, what have you. But we offer Osso Safe certification not only for homes, but also for schools and workplaces,
Okay.
those 3. So we we are including the workshop, if you will, our policies and the technology, and we are big proponents of therapy. Um, because if you have a therapist, a good therapist ready to go, when things happen, you're already armed with help, if you will. So we feel it also safe that children can be therapists to each other. They could help each other out. So we have something called the Osso Safe buddy therapist where they can call on each other to say, look, I'm being bullied by so and so. Can you help me out? I have nobody to talk to. So that way they're not alone and they actually have a peer. That's part of the certification, the Osso Safe certification for schools. But I want to say to teachers, whatever subject they're teaching, whether it be algebra, calculus, biology, language arts, uh, whatever it is, they can incorporate even their own experience. Like they could say at the beginning of class and at the end of class, so students, if you're not safe at home, I just want to say to you that I understand. I grew up in a violent home, if they have, if the teacher has. I want to tell you that you're not alone. It's not your fault. I lived in that type of environment. Um, and I am here to listen. Just that alone would be so empowering to students if they just said things like that. And if they say, anybody that is dating, we're not going to sexually assault. We're not going to force anyone to do things that they don't want to do. No means no. A maybe means no. Let it be okay. Let's breathe together. Things like that. If they just incorporated these things in their lessons, I think it would go a long way where students would feel heard and understood, and they would feel like they have like a partner in their teacher. But I feel like here in the States, at least on the where I substitute teach in my area here in the areas, I feel like they're so passive, and they give free time to students, and they could use that free time to talk about serious matters because these kids are going through so much.
Yeah.
So to ignore it or to pretend that it's not happening, or they don't want to rock any boats, ruffle any feathers, they're going through so much, these kids, especially if they're not safe at home. So why not talk about it in a way that's very disarming? Uh I think it would make a big difference in students' lives on a daily basis.
Definitely. Yeah, just to know that the space is there for the conversation. It makes a big difference. There's So I've talked to you now for about an hour, and you're a fascinating person and doing amazingly good things. Don't take offense at what I'm going to say, but the one thing that concerns me, I guess, about being you is you must hear some very traumatic stories. You must experience some very traumatic events. And a lot of those, I'm sure, are reminiscent of what it was like for you as a child. So how do you protect and nourish your own mental well-being so you don't carry everybody else's trauma with you? Because we want to understand somebody, but it doesn't benefit anybody if we're weighted down by the trauma. How do you protect yourself?
Good question. Good question. I do breathing, like what I teach in the book, actually,
Mhm.
deep breathing, and I try to stay in the moment as much as possible, as I stated earlier, and which is something that I never used to do years ago, never.
Yeah,
And I follow this one spiritual leader. He's an author. His name is Eckhart Tolle.
yeah.
Uh, and I like him a lot. And I listen to him in on my phone
Hmm.
to stay grounded as much as possible, and it is difficult, but I get encouraged just by being the founder and CEO of a company that's trying to heal. I'm trying to heal myself in healing others
Mm.
and helping them, and we're proud of our products and services because this will change the face of residency. So when I think about that, I find it encouraging because I wish I had this growing up. You know, my mother and father would not have gotten away with half the things they got away with.
Yeah.
So, and I also love the reaction of children when they react to the book, the wristbands that we have, which is Osso Safe Kids, where they're talking about Osso Safe all on their own, out of their own volition. And that means I know that I'm doing something right, that we're on the right track because we're empowering them and they're talking about Osso Safe. So that encourages me, that keeps me to keep going, and that I'm doing things right, you know.
Mm. And I guess if you're feeling lots of built up emotion and stress, I guess you dance it out. You put on a club classic and you you let rip. And there's a lot to
Right,
be said
right.
for letting our, because we don't, as adults, you watch young children, they're running around, their hands up in the air, and And we don't as adults, do we? We sort of walk everywhere quite staidly. We sit down, and we don't ever let go as such, really. And I think there's a lot to be said for exercise, dancing and ecstatic dance, and just letting go of what you're feeling. It's quite nice. I've taken a lot of your time, so sorry. Just two more questions, if that's okay. One of which is probably much more difficult to answer than the other, but I think people will probably be very curious. What happened to your parents after you left? Do you have any form of dialogue or relationship with them now? Do you know what's happened to them?
My father passed away in November of 2017. So, so it's been 8 years. He passed away. And my mother, I don't have a relationship with her really. She exists, but very much unalive.
Yeah.
That's the best way I could put it. And I have to keep away from her because she's abusive. She's still abusive. I've tried to have a relationship with her, but I lose myself in doing so. And I have to preserve myself, if you will. I have to keep myself in as much as possible in a safe, respectful atmosphere. And the only way to do that is to keep my distance from her. And and I'm so grateful that I have such a loving, wonderful partner. We've been together a while, and he's my standing ground, and he's so supportive of everything that I'm doing. So supportive with Osso Safe. He's proud of it. He's so encouraging. So my parents is the opposite of him. Thank goodness.
Yeah, absolutely. So so good you found him, and that you were open enough to give a big part of yourself to each other and to form the relationship. So my final question would be, if every household in the world could hear one message from you right now, what message you want to give to every household, to every set of parents?
There's a couple, and it's all tied together. We all deserve to be in a good relationship. Just because you are a parent, it doesn't give you the right to abuse your child. Respect needs to become a required standard in all homes, and it needs to be practiced. It's a practice every day, respect. And I want to say to all the children on your podcast, or anyone, parents that have children, they deserve the utmost respect, and they deserve voice and choice. So give them that chance. Give them their voices and choices need to be heard loud. And all they want is respect back. You give them respect, they will respect you. And for kids to speak out as loud as they can. And we're giving them that platform on YouTube and TikTok to do, because that's dedicated just to kids. Our YouTube and TikTok. Speak out, kids. Speak out on behalf of your own abuse. Call the police. You have someone that's willing to take you in. Voice that person out, and get them. You need to get to that person. And if you have no one, we're working as fast as we can to get you Osso Safe, in an Osso Safe property. So all of those things together, I want to say to your audience, and thank you so much for this huge opportunity, Andrew.
No, it was fabulous to talk to you. You were so open and authentic and honest, and I'm sure some of the things you talked about are painful even today. So thank you for being willing to give so much of yourself to people that hopefully are going to listen.
Thank you so much.